Welcome, everyone. I want to talk today about one of the parables of Jesus. It was the reading for in many churches. This past Sunday was one of the parables. And if you know me, you know that I happen to have a particular love for the parables of Jesus, really fascinated by these stories because it's really the primary way that Jesus taught. And sometimes we get frustrated by it because we don't always understand what he was trying to get at. But actually, a lot of times he doesn't want us to get a quick and easy answer. He really wants us to wrestle with with what he's saying and to try to figure out then what it means in our own lives. Too often we hear, oh yeah, Good Samaritan, oh yeah, the prodigal son, and we just yeah, we know that. We know the story. Um, but the parables of Jesus really call us to pay attention to how it's impacting in our lives today. And this one, I think, really um, fits the bill. I'll read it to you, but what I would like you to do, this is the story of the rich man and the poor man. And so I'll read it and it will set the scene for you. But as I'm reading about it, perhaps you can put in your mind, in your imagination, a contemporary scene, a gathering, say, a dinner of rich people, a gathering of billionaires in a setting maybe like Mar-a-Lago. And here's this gathering of millionaires, billionaires these days, billionaires having a meal together. So get that scene in your mind as we hear the story of that Jesus was telling. Jesus said, "There was a rich man who was dressed in purple and fine linen, who feasted sumptuously every day. At his gate lay a poor man named Lazarus, covered with sores, who longed to satisfy his hunger with what fell from the rich man's table. Even the dogs would come and lick his lick his sores. The poor man died, was carried away by the angels to be with Abraham. The rich man also died and was buried. In Hades, where he was being tormented, he looked up and saw Abraham far away with Lazarus by his side. And he called out, 'Abraham, Abraham, have mercy on me. Send Lazarus to dip the tip of his finger in water and cool my tongue, for I am in agony in these flames.' But Abraham said, 'Child, remember, during your lifetime you received your good things, and Lazarus, in like manner, received evil things. But now he is comforted here, and you are in agony. Besides all this, between you and us is a great chasm that has been fixed, so that those who might want to pass from here to you cannot do so, and no one can cross from there to us.' The man said, 'Then, Abraham, I beg you, send him to my parents' home, for I have 5 siblings, that they may be warned, so they will not also come into this place of torment.' But Abraham replied, 'Nope, no can do. They have Moses and the prophets. They should listen to them.' And the man said, 'No, Abraham, but if somebody goes to them from the dead, they will repent.' But Abraham said, 'Nope, no can do. If they don't listen to Moses and the prophets, neither will they be convinced, even if someone rises from the dead.'" And that's the gospel parable. So if you were able to imagine this gathering of billionaires and perhaps even imagine a poor person outside the gate, maybe even employed there in a low-paying job, maybe without health care, maybe with a family that can't be sustained on the salary that this person gets. Um, but thinking about this poor man in the story, he was poor, so economically challenged. He was also sick. He had sores, whatever that was, but he was sick and he was hungry. All he wanted was scraps. That's all he could aspire to, that maybe he could get some hand-me-downs or throwaways or crumbs from the table of these rich people. It puts the story in a contemporary setting, right? And we can see that if this is the story Jesus is telling and the picture that he's painting of that chasm, the story's talking about the chasm between heaven and hell, right? The story, but really there's a huge chasm before we get to the afterlife, whatever that afterlife is, between the rich and the poor. And it's getting bigger, it's getting wider. As we think about this government shutdown that's going on right now, that the billionaires out there are not suffering, they're not hurting, but all of the poor people, and by poor people, not just the ones unfortunates out on the street, but all of us who struggle to make it in this world, while the 1% seems to get more and more and more of the pie. So Jesus is speaking to us, not just a story from long ago that we can just stop and say, oh, yeah, that's a very nice story, right? Rich people bad, poor people good. Living in America, actually, even without any money, we're still rich. So we can't always put ourselves in the role of being poor, but also as a nation, we also are sick. We also are hungry and thirsty and longing for meaning in our lives, for good things in our lives, and for our families, for our neighbors. And so we see Jesus really casting the poor, the hungry, the longing as the one to be lifted up, who was able to then rest in the arms of Abraham and Sarah in heaven, while the rich man, well, his reward is not exactly what he'd been hoping for. I think about when Donald Trump was talking about how he wants to do good things, at least one maybe, so that he can get into heaven. He should read this story. Just saying. Or maybe those who are holding out on providing health care for people, or wanting to take away health care for people, or those who are cutting feeding programs for school children, or taking away Meals on Wheels, or all the kinds of things that they're trying to get rid of. In light of this story, what is Jesus saying to them? Um, for Christian nationalists who want to claim Jesus as their role model? I don't know. I don't hear them thinking of Jesus as a role model. I'm not sure how they think of Jesus, because they're not doing things that really reflect these teachings of Jesus. If they hear this parable, they might just gloss over it and say, oh, very nice. They may not even see themselves in the role of the rich man. We all have to do some serious soul searching. Everybody does. Um, but let's hope that this parable might reach out to some of those who really need to hear this word. And as Jesus meant parables to do, to be confronted by the parable and to bring about some kind of transformation, both in our thinking about how we think about things, how we think about other people, and then also how we act in the world, what we do. It seems pretty clear to me that Jesus is being very, very clear about what we're supposed to be doing. So, as Jesus would say, for those who have ears to hear, listen. And so for us, same thing, listen and reflect and wrestle. And then we'll talk about some more parables another time, because he's got a lot of them. He's got a lot to say and a lot to teach us today. Blessings.